Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast for Disney Cruise Line history, trip reports, and travel planning. And we're moving into October. Finally made it back after a little bit of a hiatus. Sorry about that, but I actually had to go on a vacation, and Christy, you and Dave went on a vacation as well, right?
Well, we went on a weekend getaway.
And I know Christy's really excited to talk about this. This is her favorite time of year when the ghosts and goblins come out and Halloween makes its appearance down at Disney World.
No!
And you guys were headed down for Mickey's Not So Scary, right?
No, I didn't go there. I will wait and go there when my child requires it of me. I am not, as you are being a smart aleck about, I am not a big Ghost and Goblins fan.
No, I know. I just had to pull your chain a little bit, but it is Halloween.
Skulls and things. I don't like it.
Well, you guys got a great breakaway for the weekend. And what all did you guys get to do down there? And when did you go?
We were there. Oh, yeah. We were there for 55 hours. This was my Hurricane Take 2 weekend. And I think I'm just not going to plan these anymore because when I plan them, a hurricane comes. So last year we had Matthew, and so our trip got moved a couple of days. And then this year, Irma took over Florida for that weekend. And obviously our thoughts and prayers are going out to everybody still affected by it. It's so sad. But yeah, so our Take 2 weekend was the 29th of September. And we were there for 55 hours.
Did you guys stay on property, or where'd you guys stay?
We stayed at the Swan.
Oh, I've never stayed there.
Yeah, it's sort of it's a property adjacent. I do like that place for the quick trips. I understand they have a nice pool. We have never seen the pool.
55 hours, it's hard to find it sometimes.
Yeah, this has been our third stay there. And, people talk about some of the disadvantages of the Swan, but really, it depends. Like, you can't get the dining plan. You can't charge to your room. You don't get magic bands. Those are the major disadvantages. You can't get Magical Express, but you can. It is considered an on-property hotel for extra magic hours and for transportation. They use the Disney transportation system within the park, within Disney World. You can send your packages to your room. So there are still lots of on-site advantages. And the cost, honestly, the cost is the reason to book it. So there is a parking fee. So if you have a car, you have to take that into account. And there is a resort fee, which is in addition to the parking fee. And the resort fee is about $29 or $35, I don't exactly remember, dollars a night. So you take that into account. But sometimes they have $200 rooms.
Wow.
$250 rooms. And that's for everybody. I was booking, they are an SPG property. So Westin Sheraton, one of them is the Westin, one of them is the Sheraton from the Swan and the Dolphin. And so you can go right to the website, or you talk to your travel agent, and you can look, and sometimes there are really cheap prices. So when I want to be in the Epcot resort area, and I want it to be, and my son's not going, because, you do lose, I think, a little bit still of the Disney magic there. But we do really like the Swan and the Dolphin.
How does it kind of compare, just for my mind, like moderate? Deluxe?
Probably deluxe.
Deluxe, okay. As far as the accommodations and whatnot.
Yeah, they're nice. There's a refrigerator in every room. So the Swan is the nicer of the properties, and the Dolphin would be like maybe a little bit lower category, but I would still put it above a moderate. The Dolphin they were just revamped, and their bathrooms are a little bit smaller, and their bathroom configuration's a little bit smaller, and they have a lot of just standalone showers. So, and that's at the Dolphin. So you would just want to pay attention to that if you were traveling with a family there. Mm-hmm. But, you can't beat your 10-minute walk to Epcot.
No, definitely not. And we're lucky we get to stay in Westin's quite a bit, and those are always really nice hotels. So
yeah,
as a kind of something different, if you're not going to do a Disney hotel, that's definitely I would definitely stay there. That's for sure.
So this time we tried the Shula's Steakhouse, and that is in the Dolphin, and we were so disappointed.
Really?
I expected it to be an amazing meal. And what happened is, we got the reservation on a fly, so that's something to consider for people. Open Table has a lot of these privately owned restaurants that are not owned by Disney. So if you're looking for somewhere to go last minute, you can try. It was pouring rain on Friday night when we were trying to eat around the world at Epcot. And so instead of just, because you cannot do Food and Wine Festival with an umbrella in the pouring rain and make that your meal, because you're trying to hold your umbrella and trying to eat your food and wine food. And it's not ideal. So it was pouring and we decided, okay, it was kind of a long day, but it was a long week, it was a long month, frankly. We wanted to try Shula's. Let's just go there. So we made a reservation on the fly at like 6:30 or something. Nobody was in there. I mean, it was dead. So that's a good choice for people. However, our steak was and this is what they're known for, it's a steakhouse.
Right.
Was so plain.
Like no flavor, huh?
No flavor. We had a filet. How do you have a filet? It was like not even seasoned.
Huh.
So, and the potatoes, so we got cheesy potatoes, and I don't know if any of this had to do with my having to order it gluten-free, but those two elements, which are the main elements of the meal, were pretty disappointing. The service was phenomenal, so above and beyond. But the meat and the potatoes, which are I think the key of any steakhouse, were not exciting. So that was a disappointment and something for and it was expensive. I had a glass of wine and we split a meal, and I want to say our bill was like $130.
Wow.
And we each had a salad. The salads were really good. Both of us really enjoyed our salad. And I even had I had bread options, which was nice, being gluten-free. And my husband said the sourdough bread they served was amazing. It smelled really good too. But then, the main courses were like $60, I think, total. Maybe even a little bit more. We're just a little underwhelming. It was definitely underwhelming. I would pick Yachtsman for sure in the future for steak dinner.
Well, there you go.
So some little tidbit. Okay, the rest of the weekend, we went to Animal Kingdom. We were excited to try Pandora again and go out there and ride those rides. And the rides were down.
Oh, no.
Until like 1:00, right about when we left, or noon, I think, is when they finally opened that day. So we didn't get to ride that. We got to ride the safari twice though, because our bus ride, the Jeep that we were in, their speaker died, and so we didn't get the sound. And so they'll let you go the next time without standing in line, it was so fun. That's my favorite ride probably besides Soarin', and so it was just really nice to be able to do that. My favorite, I think, lounge. I know yours is over in probably at Wilderness Lodge, right?
Oh, definitely Geyser Point.
Yes. My favorite lounge is adjacent to Tiffin's.
I've never been there, so I'm going to have to go try that.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. And, if it works out, even I'd be happy to go over there with you too during our overlap trip in November. What is it called? Nomad Lounge.
Nomad Lounge, yeah.
They have churros that are life-changing. Now, obviously, I can't have gluten, so it makes it, but my husband was like, these are good. And everybody eats the same version, so everybody's eating a gluten-free version. Uh-huh. But right there, churros. And then we had pork ribs, and that day was so fun. And when you don't have a kid, you can do fun stuff like this. We did, like, our lunch in sections. So we did first lunch at Nomad Lounge, and we rope dropped that. So when it opened at 11:30, we were there. It was so fun.
Is it tough to get into, or I'm guessing it's probably pretty popular? Well, maybe not at 11:30, I guess.
But right when it opened, no, there was like 2 other people. But, it did fill out. It filled up. And then by the time we were done, maybe an hour and a half later or whatever, we took our time. But it cleared out, or an hour later. So that first, like right when it first opened, it filled up. So it is getting the love it deserves. Their cheese plate is amazing. They have these pork ribs that are so good. And so we did first lunch there, and then it was a really nice day because we had a lot of rain that weekend. So we went back to Epcot and did like lunch part two, or second half of lunch, over around the world, which was so fun.
And so Food and Wine was going on. What were your thoughts about that this year?
Oh, I really enjoy it. I look forward to going back. I'm going to get to go back during our November trip for 2 more days. It'll be going on, I guess, for 2 days while we're there. And so we can A, get to the things that I've missed, and then B, get my favorites again. But it is still one of my favorite, it is my favorite festival that they have, and I really enjoy the food offerings.
Anything surprise you this year that you tried, or did you try anything new this time? Or
Well, not necessarily surprising, but still my favorite thing is in Patagonia, their beef with chimichurri or whatever. Uh-huh. Is so good. It's like a beef stick, and it's got like chippies in there or whatever.
So it had all the flavor that Shula's didn't have, huh?
For real. Like they could take some lessons. And we were eating it, and actually some other people were like, "Oh, that looks good." I said, "It is good, and you need it." And then they came back, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is good." So I think that's my favorite. But it was just, it was so much fun. And then the next day, we were there we went to Raglan Road Saturday night because I'm addicted to Raglan Road. It's my favorite place.
Do you guys stay indoors or outdoor at Raglan Road?
Indoor.
The weather.
So
Indoors better.
We like access. Outdoor is fantastic, but we like access to the band. And most of the time, I know the dancers will like do their Irish jigging all around the property, or all around the restaurant, but they do most of their performances on the stage in the middle, and so by the bar, and so that's where we like to be.
Okay. I've never been inside it. I've only watched it from outside, I guess, when they've had like different musicians outside playing.
Well, when you come to dinner with us in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, or I guess 4 by now, but we are going to go there.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
And then the next day, we were at Epcot for the 35th anniversary, which was it was so fun to be there on the day. It was the exact day. And it was super fun to stand in line with the people. So when you are at the Dolphin or the Swan, you can exit through the back, just like you would at, Beach and Yacht and Boardwalk at the International Gateway. Well, because we knew that they were doing special merchandise that day and it would be near the front of the park, we actually took an Uber to get to the front of the park so that we can get in those lines and not have to walk through the park. So we pull up and my husband's like, "Man, we're going to make rope drop." And I'm like, "Yeah, honey, we will." It was 7:40 and the park opened at 9.
Wow.
He's like, I'm like, "Are you going to kill me?" And I said, "How do you not know this?" He goes, "I thought you said it was early." I said, "I never said it was early. Animal Kingdom was early, but that was the only early opening of our trip." And so, it turned into a whole thing, but he had fun talking to people in line, and he's not one to talk to strangers. And we both it was such a fun morning. And we got merchandise. And then because they were giving the 35th anniversary spiel, we ended up, we didn't want to listen to that. We decided we could just watch that on YouTube later. But we went to Frozen and basically walked on to Frozen at 10 a.m. When does that happen? That was so fun. I mean, literally our wait was like 6 minutes. It was we really packed it in. It was a lot of fun. We really did have a lot of fun.
Wow. Was it crowded then? I guess people were just hanging out at the shows and buying merchandise. Is that why they didn't make it to the back part of the park? Or
yeah, they were listening. Most of the people at that point were watching the 35th anniversary presentation. So, there was merchandise, people were standing in line, which some people I think were still standing in line because we were closer to the front. And we did stand in line we made fun of ourselves a little bit for it, but it was just fun. The whole experience was really a lot of fun. Although one guy was telling somebody, "Hey, don't push, and why are you so close?" And you can't rope drop a 35th anniversary event and not, be really intimate with everybody standing around you. I mean, you just have no personal space is not happening. So I don't know why that guy forgot that rule. But, it was most of the people. It was just so fun. Everybody was just chatty and, having a really good time. So it was a lot of fun. And then we had to leave, but they ended up having special drinks and everything and special food. But by I think 12:30, we had to head back to go to the airport.
So a fun weekend without the little guy with you, but sometimes you kind of need that, don't you?
Oh, for sure. And, Disney as adults is just such a different experience than just, Disney with a family. So we'll have a family trip here in a few weeks, which will be fun and exciting as well.
And where are you guys staying that time?
We were staying at the yacht club with the dogs, apparently.
With the dogs.
So they just allowed dogs at 3 resort properties at Disney World. So we'll let you know how that goes.
So I was listening to a different podcast yesterday when I was driving home from Seattle, and they were talking about it. I guess Universal already allows dogs, or has done it for years now at their hotels, and supposedly, I guess, it doesn't seem to be a big deal there, so hopefully it won't be a big deal at Disney also, I guess, huh?
So that was longer than we intended to talk about that, but it was a fun little weekend. So, but the purpose of our show is to talk about your trip.
No, that works out pretty good. This will be a good segue right into it. And we are we had a chance to go on Norwegian Cruise Line's getaway on a cruise to the Baltic with some friends of ours here in September, and it was an amazing trip. Absolutely amazing. If you can go to the Baltic, if you have any interest in going to the Baltic, I highly recommend it. You get to go to such different places that I don't even know how to describe it other than the fact that if it's not on your radar or not on your bucket list, take a look at it, because it's kind of a magical place to go and see kind of a whole different part of our world, I guess. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about the differences with Norwegian and maybe Disney a little bit, because in a lot of the podcasts I've listened to, and Christy and I were talking about it beforehand, you don't really hear a lot about Norwegian Cruise Line, do you?
Nope.
And you've never been on Norwegian, have you?
I haven't.
Okay, so this is our second trip that we did. Matter of fact, the very first cruise that my wife and I did, we did the Norwegian Jade with our friends that we traveled with up to the Baltic, and that was in the Mediterranean. And that was on a ship probably, the Jade's about the size of the Magic and the Wonder, and the Getaway is about the size, maybe just a little bit bigger than the Dream and the Fantasy. So kind of to give you some kind of perspective. And I guess I'd start off, we flew into Copenhagen. We took Iceland Air, which I'm kind of becoming a big proponent of Iceland Air. If you're looking for a great way if you're looking for a great way to get to Europe, it's at least from the West Coast, it's a great way to go, rather than having to go through Chicago, JFK, Atlanta. A lot of those trips, if you're a West Coaster like we are, you got to get up early. You're going to the East Coast, and you're sitting around for 4 or 5 hours waiting for your flight on over to Europe, where a lot of the European carriers, if you can book with them, they'll leave later in the day. So we left at like 4 in the afternoon. So you're not having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to catch your flight. So we left at 4 in the afternoon, flew to Keflavik, which is about a 7-hour flight, and then from Keflavik.
And was it direct from where you are?
Yeah, so we live in Portland, Oregon. So it was Iceland Air went direct from Portland to Keflavik, and then it's about a 3-hour flight from Keflavik to anywhere in Europe. It seems like we were talking to some people, and everybody, like, people come from London, from Munich, from Frankfurt, and everybody had about a 3-hour flight up to Iceland. So just a kind of a different way to go. It was a great week. By the time we got to Copenhagen, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we definitely didn't feel as tired, even though it's kind of, you're on the backside of the clock now by the time you get to Europe. It was just a great way to go, I guess. I really highly recommend them if you're on the West Coast.
Do you have to pay for like the water on board and all that on your seat?
No.
Separately?
No, they do. They're kind of going the way most of the U.S. airlines are now. If you're like us that travel in the back and not traveling business class or whatever, everything's a la carte, so you pay for food a la carte. But they give you a bottle of water when you came on, that was free, and then most of the drinks were free. Alcohol was more if you wanted alcohol, but and they had free entertainment and their seat backs. So yeah, kind of a different way to go. So we flew into Copenhagen and we spent a day there. And have you been up to any of these countries at all, by any chance, Christy?
No.
Yeah, we'd been to Norway, but Copenhagen was just an amazing city. So we met up with our friends there and spent a night. And I got a whole Airbnb story, which maybe I'll tell you at a different time. But I'm kind of going back and forth on Airbnb. I'm not sure if I like it or not. I guess do your research. That's what I would say. For
sure. And did you see there was one news story about one Airbnb place that had in the smoke detector had a camera over the bedroom?
Really? So they were filming people.
Yep.
Yeah, well, this one...
Obviously, that's not everybody's experience. It's not going to be everywhere, but I would definitely just say, do your research.
Yeah, do your research. So, anyways, yeah, we... The rooms were nice, but it was in the party district, and oh my gosh, man, people were partying until 4 o'clock in the morning. It was loud. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, fireworks were going off. It sounded like gunshots, but
oh my God.
We didn't realize our friends that booked it didn't realize that we were like in the main party district on a Friday night, or Saturday night, I guess, in Copenhagen. So,
which might be something somebody else was looking for.
Exactly. If that's what you're looking for, then that's the place you want to be. But anyways. So we left Sunday from Copenhagen on the Getaway. Like I said, it's about the same size as the Dream or the Fantasy. Getting on was super easy. It probably took about maybe 15 minutes or so. If you're leaving out of Copenhagen, because the Magic does travel out of there, It's pretty easy if you're staying in the city. The best way to do it is to take a taxi to the port. Going back to the airport the next day or at the end of the trip, you can make arrangements with the cruise lines. But we also, when we got out, we were like, well, we'll just take a taxi to downtown and then we'll jump on the train because it's just the two of us without kids and we didn't have a lot of bags. And we'll take a train back to the airport. But as we got off, there was 2 buses there, and they were selling tickets to either downtown or to the airport, and it was half the price of what the cruise line was offering. And we kind of found that in Miami, too, when we were there when we got off. There was, like, plenty of transportation options. I don't know if have you ever just kind of winged it like that before? Yeah.
In Miami, especially.
Okay.
We always would just take a cab.
Yeah, so...
And it's a set rate. It's like $25.
Yeah, and it's, like, way cheaper than what you're going to pay for the bus. And then
right,
kind of like what Disney does, they want to get people off there as quickly as they can. Norwegian was doing the same thing. Well, we want, your bus is going to leave at 7 or 7:30 in the morning, and we wanted to just kind of have a leisurely morning, get up, have some breakfast, and so that's what we ended up doing instead of jumping on the bus, because that would have got us to the airport like 8 hours before our flight.
Oh my God.
Yeah, nobody wants to sit around an airport for 8 hours, but
no.
I'm digressing here, aren't I? Anyways, so super easy to get to the port from downtown. Just take a taxi, and getting through for us, it was really easy. We were on the ship in about 15 minutes, and it was the ship was built in 2013, so it's a pretty new ship, and it was clean. It was a really, really kind of a nice experience getting on. But you immediately, when you compare it to Disney, it's really sterile, sort of. Like, every floor looks exactly the same. You kind of feel like you're in a hotel. I don't know. What's Carnival like when you're on your last Carnival?
Well, Carnival is very bright.
Yeah. So
it feels like you're at a clown hotel.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it feels like a Westin is kind of what I would say. It feels like you're at the Westin. Like, it's nice, but everything's like, all the colors are exactly the same on every single floor. There's like no kind of diversity to it, really. But I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like things that you kind of pick up. Our stateroom, we got a balcony, 2-bedroom, or it slept 3. It would have been pretty cramped for 3. It's probably about, I would say, staying in the family balcony ones that we did on Disney the last 2 times. There's probably about half the size of that.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're pretty small, but and they don't have a split bathroom if that's important.
Pretty much Disney only has that feature.
Right. I think like some of the newer ones.
Oh, Carnival has some of it as well, but
Yeah.
on that one, on the Vista, in the family class cabins, I believe only.
Okay. But the rooms are super nice. We're easily, you can put your bags underneath the beds. The beds were really comfortable. It just wasn't huge, but it was easy for the 2 of us to pack our stuff away. But the thing that we loved was when I was our travel agent, and this is why you should use a travel agent that's been on different ships or has had different experiences, is she knew that like most of the balconies just look straight out, but there are about probably 4 or 5 different areas where the balconies kind of come out at an angle. And so when you walk out on it, you've got an angled balcony, so you actually can walk out and look down the whole length of the ship. So we were in the back right side of the ship, and so you could see out, but you could also see forward, and you could turn around and look backwards. So it's probably not that big a deal, but it just kind of gave you a different perspective when you're out on the balcony, which was kind of nice.
How fun.
Yeah. So staterooms are nice. One thing about Norwegian we could talk a little bit, I guess, about, they have a concierge type system as well, like what you've sailed on. They call it the Haven, and it's like a completely separate ship, basically. It's just like a whole separate area that you go into, where the staterooms, they've got their own pool area, they've got lounges, they've got a restaurant there that you can eat at. And I think Royal Caribbean does the same thing, don't they?
No.
Celebrity
has a little bit of that.
Okay.
Royal does not.
Okay. But
they have a bar. They do have like a lounge. Royal does a bar/lounge with a concierge person, but nothing like the Haven.
Okay. Yeah, the Haven, look, I don't think it was really, our ship was full and people were in the Haven, it looked like, but you could kind of see where the pool area was, but it was just, being in the Baltic at that time of the year was kind of cooler, so we had one really nice day where people are out and about in the pools, but you didn't really see too many people kind of out in that area. But yeah, it's definitely a whole different experience. You have your own, kind of like on Disney, where you have your own concierge person to set up everything for your tours and dining. You can eat wherever you want, whenever you want. They'll set up those reservations for you, so you don't have to do that ahead of time. And it's just you pay a premium for it. And I'm not going to go into pricing, but it'd be a great way to go if you're looking for something a little bit more exclusive.
And compared to Disney, the price is definitely much lower.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the pricing, so definitely lower. You think about like half, or where
yeah, I
do you think it
I don't
stands?
know that.
Okay.
But I know it's significantly lower.
Anyways, what else could we talk about? I guess we could talk about the way they do their dining, which is a little bit different than Disney. They have, so Norwegian's kind of known, and we were talking about this before the show, they're kind of known as like kind of an a la carte company, which is, we were talking about beforehand, and I'm not sure it's much different than like Royal. I'm really interested to go on Royal to try and see how it compares. But the way Norwegian works it is they have on most of their ships, actually both of the ships we've been on, they have 2 main dining rooms at least, which are included in the price of your cruise. And then they have a buffet. And just as a side note, the buffet we only ate for breakfast, and I would say Disney's is way better. Norwegian's wasn't bad. It wasn't that the food was bad, but it was kind of like the same stuff every single day. And I'd say the quality's probably just a little bit better on Disney as far as the buffet goes.
Well, and Disney's a premium line as well to be remembered,
right?
That people should remember. And Royal would be, or NCL, well, and Royal, is considered a mass market line. And so people just need to remember that. Like, yes, no matter what, to start with, you're paying less. And so there is going to be some quality things that, of course, Disney is going to do better at.
So definitely, I would definitely give them a thumbs up on or Disney as far as the buffet goes. Then the main dining rooms. The first time we went, and I've read some message board stuff about NCL where on the Jade, I remember the food in the main dining rooms was really good. This time it was kind of hit or miss. It wasn't bad. It was definitely not the quality of Disney as far as going to the dining rooms there. But I would say our reaction overall was probably 50-50. Some of the stuff was good. Some of the stuff were kind of like, eh. I mean, it wasn't terrible or anything like that. It didn't have, like your steak at Sheila's, like it didn't have flavor or whatever else. Especially like the specialty stuff that they tried to do each night. They're kind of like Disney where you, like every night you could get a filet or you can get some chicken or a fish or something like that. That seemed to be pretty consistent, but whatever the specialty stuff was kind of hit or miss. And you don't have a set dining time, so you just show up and go when you want to go. You can book ahead prior to the cruise, and you can get reservations at the main dining room at certain times, but we weren't sure what we were going to do on some of those nights, so we just kind of winged it. And
was there a wait for a table, and how did the check-in process? How did all that go?
Yeah, so you come up, you check in. I think that usually it always seemed like it's going to be like 30 or 45 minutes, and it would take about 15. And they give you a buzzer, one of those like little restaurant things to carry around, and so you could go watch whatever music's going on or whatever else. So it was usually pretty quick, so it wasn't too bad.
That's good.
Then the way they kind of do it, depending on your cruise, they have these specialty packages that you can. This is what they like to get people on as their promotions, and so they give you options for unlimited open bar, which is really not unlimited open bar because if you sign up for that, they're going to charge you. I can't remember how much it was, and I guess it just went up recently too. So I think ours is $75 per person a day.
Yeah. Oh.
Was that what it was?
No.
No, that's...
it was total for the week, probably.
Yeah.
For your gratuities.
Yeah.
And now it's like 110, I believe.
Yeah. So I apologize about that. So you're going to pay the gratuities ahead of time, but being with our friends, we imbibed a little bit more than what we would have done with our kids. I was wondering if we were going to break even for the week or for the 9 days that we were on, and we were like well over, so... That was worth it for us if that's important to you. Then specialty dining, they usually give you, depending upon the length of your cruise, you're going to get so many specialty dining options. So just like Royal has a steakhouse and a like hibachi place and whatnot, Norwegian has the exact same thing. They've got a steakhouse, they got a French restaurant, Italian restaurant. And so for our 9-day, we got 3 free dinners at those. And so we booked those ahead of time. I highly recommend doing that as well, because if there's a certain night that you want to go, they fill up, especially the steakhouse and the French restaurant. The French restaurant's kind of like their flagship restaurant, and that one books out pretty far in advance. So you're going to want to get on and book those ahead of time if those are important. But the cool thing was, we're 9 days. You got a lot of nights of eating. We did the steakhouse. We did the hibachi, where they cook in front of you on the grill, and both of those were excellent. And then we did the French restaurant. And then one night we were just kind of like, we really don't want to go back to the main dining room, so we went to the Italian restaurant. And so you pay, instead of paying a fixed fee of like $35 for your meal, you pay a la carte off the menu. And I think it cost us, for my wife and I, we split a salad, and then we both got an entree. And instead of getting, an entree and a salad and an appetizer and a dessert, we just got two things. And I think it was like less than $25 for the two of us.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, and it was really good food too. So, so there's some different options that you could kind of mix and match while you're dining on board. Show-wise, we went to 3 of the shows that they had on board. They were pretty good. Kind of, most of the stuff tended to trend. I'll admit I'm a little bit older. I'm a child of the 80s, but most of the stuff kind of trended like in the 70s or earlier is kind of what they focused on, because it's a little bit older crowd on the cruise. So like one of the shows had like a young Johnny Cash and Elvis. What if Johnny Cash, Elvis, and who's the guy that sang Goodness Gracious, Great Balls of Fire, if they all got together one night, but kind of their young versions, and they had a concert together. And it was fun, but it was kind of like just an older music. And then one night they had, in the main lobby, they had a Tina Turner show and Aretha Franklin. So definitely good entertainment, but kind of just trending a little bit kind of towards the older crowd, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The best thing that we did entertainment-wise was they had a Cirque du Soleil dinner, and we paid extra for that. That was $35 a person. And so you got your full dinner, and then you got to see the show, and it was an amazing show. It was all kind of a steampunk theme, if you're familiar with steampunk. But the actors in it and the acrobats, I guess I should say, it was just really cool. You've seen Cirque du Soleil before, right?
I have. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I've seen it once in Vegas. I've never seen the one at Disney World. But this was, and then I've seen like the traveling shows that they do here, where they travel around. They were, it was really good. It was probably the best one I've seen. So that was probably the best entertainment we saw on the ship. So what else haven't I covered that people usually like to know?
How about the ports?
The ports. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the main reason why we went here was to travel the Baltic. So the first port we went to, we left out of Copenhagen. And then the next day we were in Warnemünde, which is northern Germany. And the cruise lines use this one so that you can go to Berlin. It's a 3-hour bus ride. Yeah. 3 hours each way to get to Berlin. And the ship's there. We were there we were there at 7 in the morning. And it didn't leave until probably 10 at night. So they give you a good chunk of time to get there. We decided to take a pass on that. I've been to a lot of different. I've never been to Berlin. I've been all through Germany, but yeah, 6 hours on a bus just didn't seem too exciting to us to go see Berlin. Maybe we'll see it some other time. So we stayed and took a train to a little town called Rostock, and that was really cool. It's just a quaint little German town.
How did you pick it? How did you decide to go there?
Oh, to go to Rostock?
Yeah.
I use Rick Steves has a. It's kind of dated. I don't think he's updated it, but he's got a Cruising the Baltic book, and that was one of the things he recommended. And Warnemünde is kind of like it's a beach resort, small little beach resort that people go to in the summer. I didn't think there would be as much to do there, but actually they had this great strand along this canal of shops and restaurants and cute little places to get ice cream. So if you're looking for a low-key day, you wouldn't even have to go to Rostock. You could just hang out in Warnemünde. There's actually plenty of stuff to do there, and just kind of wander around and see if you wanted just to have a low-key day off the ship.
Nice.
And I just wasn't sure if there wasn't going to be as much to do there, so that's why we went down to Rostock. But this is kind of funny. We went to a cathedral there, and we're touring around, and they had a clock which was built back in the 1600s. Yeah, 1700s. And a lot of the cathedrals back in that day had this clock that they put into it, and I can't even describe it. It's a very intricate clock that shows like when you should be planting. It kind of gives you like the phases of the moon and
cool,
and all this stuff. And it was supposed to it ended because they only had enough space on this clock as it kind of went around to show the different phases and the different years. They ran out of space at September 17th, 2017. So a lot of people thought that was when the world was going to end, just because that's where they ran out of time. And we're past September 17th, 2017. The world's still here, so I guess we're going to continue on for at least a little bit. But
thank goodness for that.
Yeah, so a lot of the peasants back in the day thought that was going to be the end of the world was September 17th, 2017.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah. So, but there's a university in Rostock, and a bunch of the students got together, and they've recreated the clock, and they're going to put in a new face for it so that the world is going to continue on. Anyway, so that was our day in Germany. We did talk to one person who had gone to Berlin, and she was like, I don't think I'd do it again because it was just a long time on the bus ride. And then once they got there, they only had like 5 hours, so she was like, we really didn't even get off the bus, or really didn't get to see much. You're just walking around seeing everything quick. Like, here's the Brandenburg Gate, here's this, here's that. So I don't know. I don't want to diss on it, but you might think about how you want to spend your time, I guess.
It's a good tip.
Yeah. So next day was a sea day, and lots of stuff to do on the ship. There was 5 different water slides. This was 85 degrees that day, so we definitely took advantage of it up on board in the pool, riding the water slides. They have 2 water slides just like the Magic, which the Aqua Dunk, where you stand on a platform and they give you a countdown, and the platform falls out, and then you go shooting down. It's pretty cool.
No, thank you, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Then they have a ropes course, which you're familiar with that, where you climb along kind of girders up in the air. And so the whole back part of the ship, they had this like ropes course, and you could walk around, and you've got a harness on, so you're not going to fall. And if you do fall, the harness is going to catch you, and you're going to be able to continue on. But so you walk along all these
You're not in the ocean forever.
Yeah. So you walk along these beams, and they've got this one little part where it's like a plank. It's like, you're like Captain Hook's telling you to walk the plank, and if you walk out to the end of it, there is a camera, and you can pull this little button, and it'll take a picture of you, so you can prove that you did it, and then you could go get your picture somewhere, I guess. But I couldn't do it. I was like, no. We were cruising along, looking down to the ocean, and this is like 18 stories up or so.
Did you ask if anybody's ever fallen?
No, I didn't, but I figured they probably wouldn't have it. I'm hoping that they wouldn't have it if somebody had fallen. Yeah, so they had that. They had a climbing wall, and all this stuff is included. You didn't have to pay extra for it. They had a climbing wall, and what else did they have? They had like some kind of like almost like it was kind of like, what's that called, where you go up in the parachute behind a boat where you're getting pulled along?
Oh, parasailing.
Parasailing. It was kind of like a mini parasailing thing, but it was
cool.
It was kind of windy that day because we're cruising along, and they didn't have that going. But I guess
would that have had a charge?
No, it was all included too.
Wow.
Yeah, so all of that stuff was included. We spent a little time in the gym. Gym was really nice. We didn't do any spa stuff, or my wife didn't do any spa stuff, but the gym was
Men
really
do
nice.
it too,
Yeah, I know. I gotta do that one of these times. I want to do that.
I actually don't go in the spa much either, frankly. That's one of the things I'm more frugal about. I'm willing to spend money places, but that's not usually one of them, so I get it. But men go there as well.
Yeah. I want to do the rainforest room.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of these cruises.
Did they have one of those on Norwegian?
Or
something along those lines?
I think they did. And once again, with the Haven, that's included. The spa is included, I think, in the price of your... I'm pretty sure that's included in the price of your cruise, so you can use. It's not all the spa services. You can't just go and do all the spa services, but there is kind of a rainforest type room where they have chairs to relax in and everything else, and I know that's included as well. At least it was on our cruise. So that was our sea day. They had a great mojito bar, lots of bars all around the ship. Definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, places to...
And were all the drinks included that you wanted to try in your drink package?
So the way the drink package works is it's up to $15. Anything over $15, you've got to pay the difference. So, but anything under 15 is included in your drink package, which
And-
is pretty much most of the stuff.
Okay. Did you drink anything over $15?
We did once, and this is a whole different side angle, which you can talk about. Like the one difference in cruising with Norwegian, because you don't, we kind of get the sense you don't have the same waiter coming with you. The staff was really good. Our room attendant was awesome, super nice guy. Hardly ever saw him. It was amazing. Like you'd leave, the place would be dirty. You'd leave for like 2 minutes, come back, it'd be clean. It was like, I think I saw him maybe 5 times the entire 9 days. But super nice guy, really friendly staff. But you don't have, unless you're kind of going back to the same bars or something, or you don't get the same rapport that you do kind of like on Disney, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so we did buy a couple extra drinks over and above because that was the only way that you could tip them. And there was one gal, went to this mojito bar probably every night about 5 because they had trivia afterwards. They had this music trivia, which was fun. And so she got to know us, and that was the only way that you could actually tip her, was to buy something extra.
They didn't do slips for every drink?
No.
So Carnival, as just an aside, does, and I believe Royal does as well, does a slip for every drink. So you can add on tips. You could also like bring $1 or $2, throw $1 at them.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. We just generally didn't have our cash with us, I guess.
Sure. but that's good feedback.
Yeah, so that was the one way to be able to tip her. So we ordered like a more expensive drink each night so that we could take care of her a little bit extra too, because she was super, super nice and friendly. So that was our sea day. Moving on, the next day we went to Tallinn, Estonia, which I didn't know anything about. Tallinn is a small country that was part of Russia. They kind of went back and forth. They were part of Sweden, they were part of Russia. And that's the thing that you find out going across the Baltic is, you get away from the English and the French and the Germans. It's all about the Swedes, and the Swedes back in the day kind of ruled everything. They were kind of the bullies of the block. But and then after that, it was kind of the Russians. But Tallinn, after the Soviet Union broke up, or Estonia is one of the Baltic states that's kind of making their own way. And Tallinn's just a small little walled city, kind of an old medieval city, and that was really cool. We just did a walking tour, and I'm going to give a plug here for a tour company here in a sec, but we did a walking tour that kind of took us all around, and we had a gal that was Estonian, and she gave us the whole history of Tallinn and talked about, and that was probably the coolest things. Not only did we get to see it, but having somebody from that country tell you about what their country's like and what people like and what they do on a day-to-day basis, it really kind of makes it a more meaningful experience to go and see it.
Yeah, for sure.
And our friends booked tours in Tallinn with a company called SPB, so Sierra Papa Bravo Tours Baltic. There's a little,
the pilot in you is coming out.
So we used them in Tallinn, and we used them in St. Petersburg. Phenomenal. Really good tours. I highly recommend it. You can find their website. They were probably half the price, if not even a little bit less than what we were going to get off Norwegian. And both tours were just amazing. So highly recommend it. They do have some they've expanded. They run some tours, I believe mostly in Italy, in the Mediterranean. They're kind of expanding down there. So we're going to give them a shot here this summer when we go to the Mediterranean. Yeah, that was amazing. So we kind of spent the day walking around and just exploring Tallinn. Then,
who are you cruising the Med with?
We're going on the Magic. So
okay.
Yeah, we're going out of we're doing the Rome to Barcelona 7-day sailing.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the end of September or end of June. So
awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So we'll get.
And the kids are going.
Kids are coming with. They're braving it. We're going to spend 5 days in Rome, or 4 days in Rome, and then awesome. 7 days on the ship, and then we're going to fly to Munich for a couple days and go see Neuschwanstein and some of the stuff in Germany. So before we head
what
back.
An awesome adventure.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Rome is one of my favorite cities.
Well, good. We're going to have to talk about that before I want to do some planning here because I've never been.
For sure.
So then the big highlight of the trip, the main reason why we really wanted to go the next day, we spent 2 days in St. Petersburg. So the ship pulls into St. Petersburg in the morning. People went to Moscow. You can fly to Moscow if you want because you've got 2 days. You can stay off the ship. You can stay in a hotel. You can come back to the ship. You can do whatever you want. It's just the ship pulls in at 7 in the morning, and then it left at about 7 the next day in the evening. And if you can do it, if this is on your bucket list, make sure you get on a cruise where you've got 2 days, because there's just so much to see. That's probably that's the hardest thing about this cruise, is like each one of these ports I could have stayed 2 days and just explored even more. But St. Petersburg, you really need 2 days to really see it well, I would say. Once again, we did SPB. You get off. This is the only place where you have to go through passport control. And should I tell you this real quick side note?
Of course.
So I flew for the military for 20 years, and I've been to Russia twice with the military. So all our friends go through. Then it's my turn. I come up to the counter, and I give the guy my passport, and I've just got a regular passport like everybody else now. But when I was in the military, I had a military passport. And he looks down. I didn't
even know there was such a thing.
Yeah, it's a government passport. I guess it's not really military, government passport if you travel a bunch. But he looks at me, he goes, "You are military." And I was like, I'm like, what am I supposed to say now? I was like, yeah, I was, but not anymore. I'm retired. He looks at me, he goes, "Yes, I know." And I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, how do you know? They must keep some pretty good records or something like that. Anyways, he asked for my military ID. I've got like a retired one, so I gave him that, and he looked at that a little bit longer and let me go, and we wandered around.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
scary and creepy and crazy.
I know. We wandered around for the day. We come back, and like everybody goes through except for me. They're like, I'm standing there for like about 10 minutes, and this gal's like looking, and all of a sudden this dude with a big hat comes over. Is like, "You come with me." So me and this other guy go with him, and then we have to do I had to do like a 20-minute interview with this Russian guy about, do I still have contacts from the last time I was in Russia? Do I keep in contact with these people? And who is my commander, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I've been out of the military for a long enough time now. I don't care. I didn't have any secrets or anything to give them. So anyways, kind of a weird side note.
Crazy. Well,
Yeah.
I guess it's a good tip for people in the military.
Yeah, or something else, man. They keep good records. They remember you, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So where do we get from here? Oh, so St. Petersburg. Yeah. So we had the same tour guide, and there was about 15 of us in a minivan. Big minivan, and they took us everywhere. We saw...
I think that would be a regular van at that point.
Okay, regular van. Like one of those big Sprinter vans, kind of like the Mercedes things. Yeah, but there's just too much to talk about. I can't talk about everything about it, but some of the highlights we got to see. My wife's really big into the czars, and that St. Petersburg is where Tsarist Russia was before communism came into place, and most of the focus was on kind of Catherine the Great, or Peter the Great, and his wife Catherine, and everything after that. And the palaces there are just amazing. They're bigger than life. Everything's gold. We got to see, so we got to see where they were buried. The czars were buried, and we did a riverboat cruise. We went to Peter the Great's summer palace, which is out in the outskirts of town, and it's just I don't even know. There's nothing in America to even compare it to. I mean, even back in DC, we don't even have the buildings like that to even compare it to. It's just bigger than life. So kind of a neat history to see. I'll try and put some pictures up online, I guess, and if you're interested, you can take a look at them. And if you have any questions about any of the places that we saw or whatnot, definitely feel free to reach out. But went to several different palaces. We got to eat lunch at different Russian restaurants, which that was really good. We got to ride on the subway, which was kind of neat. That's always like a highlight, I guess, that people like to do. It's that the subway stations themselves, they have chandeliers in them. They're clean. They're just it's nothing like we even have in the States here. It was pretty amazing. Everything's just kind of bigger than life. But we stayed with the same tour guide and the same tour group both days. We did not stay in a hotel. We came back and stayed on the ship and just stayed on the ship. Yeah, so that was St. Petersburg. I don't know if you have any questions about St. Petersburg, but I would...
How was the visa process actually for
Good point.
Russia?
So if you do a tour with like SPB, or if you do a tour with the ship, with NCL or Disney, they'll take care of the visa for you. If you're going to do stuff on your own, then you have to go through the Russian consulate, I believe, and it's about you definitely want to at least start the process 6 months out, but I think it takes at least 3 months to get your visa. So you can do stuff by yourself. There were taxis there as you got off. You could jump in a taxi and go explore St. Petersburg yourself. And we felt pretty safe wandering around. It was young people going to work as we're driving around. It was a very vibrant city, really, really different than what I thought it was going to be, I guess. So yeah, visa process, probably, definitely, when you book one of these cruises, Norwegians immediately started sending stuff to us about the visa process if you were planning on doing anything. All the rest of the countries, you didn't need anything, just Russia. And I'm guessing Disney would do the same thing. And I don't know, have you ever booked anybody up there?
I haven't.
Okay.
So I'm feverishly taking notes as you talk right now.
But yeah, and our travel agent sent us a link to about visa stuff. So we got stuff from several different people. But since we were already planning on booking with SPB, then we weren't really worried about setting it up ourselves.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was St. Petersburg. Then the next day we went to Helsinki, Finland. And this is a really short day there, which was kind of nice because after 2 days in St. Peter, the hardest part about this cruise is you almost needed like one sea day in between all this because you're up going every day.
That's how I felt about the Mediterranean cruise that I've done.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you need more sea days.
Yeah,
you don't get them.
You don't. The good thing is like our last day was a sea day, which I really like that, having kind of a day to relax and before you get off the ship. But
nice.
Yeah, so we went to Helsinki. It was a really short day. We got off and we did a boat trip, or just got on a boat ride that took us all around this big, huge island area where a lot of, like in Norway and Sweden and Finland, a lot of families have cottages or summer homes that they spend their time in. And so just cruising around the islands, most of the homes along the water were all like little summer homes. So it was kind of neat to see those. Lots of sailboats out. And that's pretty much all we did there. There's a farmer's market. We kind of wandered through that, and that was pretty much our time in Helsinki. Once again, another city I'd love to go back and spend some time in and see a little bit more. And then the next day we went to Stockholm. And because of the size of the ship, and Norwegian, this is the first year that they put a ship this big in the Baltic. It'd normally been like the size of the Magic or the Wonder. And our friends, the Towlers, who went on their Baltic cruise, the Magic's small enough that it can dock closer to Stockholm, so you get to travel through all these little islands as you approach it. Mm-hmm. Our ship was too big, so it had to go to a port probably about 45 minutes outside of downtown. But it's not as bad as it sounds. There's a train station right as you get off. You can walk to. You can either, once again, use Norwegian. They offered, I think it was like $30 each person for a round trip to go to Stockholm on their bus, and on the train I think it was like $5 each, so it was like $10 round trip. So we just walked to the train station, and it was actually kind of cool. 45-minute little train ride. You get to see the countryside a little bit as you came into Stockholm, and then we spent the day in Stockholm there. Another great city. We went to a thing called the Vasa Museum, which is this old ship, and we kind of talked about it, I guess, on the Baltic show that I did with John. But it was an old ship that the Swedish, it's got so many great stories behind it. But long story short, it's the oldest, it's the only 16th century ship that they actually have in full that you can see. And it sank 25 minutes into its maiden voyage because it was too top heavy. So, and there's a whole bunch of stories that are just hilarious. But you can do this tour in the museum, and the tour guide taking you around and telling you about all the mistakes that were made. And she gets to the point where it's like 25 minutes, and she goes, and now the ship is no more because it's at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh my gosh.
It's at the bottom of Stockholm Harbor. So yeah, a lot of cool stories around that. It's on Gamlastan is the name of the island. So there's Stockholm's a bunch of little islands. The city's on a bunch of islands. And so you've got the main part, and Gamlastan's kind of like this area where there's parks and a lot of museums. There's the Vasa Museum. We were going to go to the ABBA Museum just for the fun of it, which, I don't know. Do you remember ABBA?
Yeah.
Mamma Mia? Yeah, and all that. But it was like, I think it was like, when we got in line, we were like, look at the price. It was like $25 or $30 a person. It was like, yeah, I don't think that we need to see the ABBA Museum for $60 each, so, or for the two of us. So we skipped that, jumped on a ferry, went down to the old part of Sweden, or old part of Stockholm, and just kind of wandered around there. Really quaint, lots of small little narrow alleyways and shops and restaurants, and just kind of a fun afternoon there, kind of wandering around and just exploring, basically. So cool. Yeah, so then from there, back to the ship, and then we had our last sea day. And this is the other thing I wanted to throw out there. Disney has to do this. They have to do this, and I don't know if they ever will. Maybe they've done it in the past, but Norwegian, both the Norwegian ships that I've been on, they have an hour-long talk with the captain and the head engineer of the ship. And I know this isn't for everybody, but for a geek like me who loves just the ships themselves and just how it all works, it's absolutely fascinating. They gave like a 20-minute presentation on the ship itself and everything about it, how much food's consumed, all this kind of stuff. And then the captain comes out with the head engineer, and they answer questions for about 40 minutes, and anybody can get up and ask. And it's just fascinating to hear all about like operating in the Baltic. The Baltic's much is because of the states that are around it, Sweden and Norway and Russia, they regulate it much higher. They can only use special fuels in there. Normally they can grind up the food and dump it into the ocean for the fish. They can't do anything like that in the Baltic. It's kind of geeky stuff that I get into, but it was fascinating. And it was kind of cool to actually see those two guys up there kind of talking about their jobs and some of the things that they're responsible for and kind of what they do. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think Disney would get a lot. I mean, what do they have? They have like, you can go get something signed for them, and then they have like the formal night where you can get your picture taken. But I don't know. I think they should do something like that, because I think a lot of people would find that interesting.
For sure.
Or maybe I'd be the only one there. I don't know.
No, there would be more.
But and this is kind of interesting too. We were going a little bit faster that last day because they wanted to get to Copenhagen early because it was a fuel day. They don't fuel up every time they come back to port for their 9-day cruises. And the engineer said they take on, each time they fuel up, it's a $500,000. So $500,000 worth of fuel.
Wow.
Yeah. So the money behind the operation of these ships is pretty amazing, I think.
That's cool.
I kind of geeked out about that a little bit. Anyways, getting back to Copenhagen, getting off once again was super easy. We were off in 15 minutes. We were just going to take a taxi, and I saw these buses parked over there and it said airport on the bus. So we jumped out of line and went over there, and the guy's like, yeah, $15 for the airport. It's like, sold. So we threw our bags on there, and that was a quick, easy way to get back to the airport. But overall, Norwegian, we like it. It works for us. There wasn't a lot of kids on the boat, but it was September. There were some kids. I happened to walk by the kids club several times just because of where our stateroom was and going up onto the main deck. And it was more like the teen lounge area. It didn't seem like there's very many kids up there, but once again, it's September, probably not. And this is kind of an itinerary that I'm not sure how many people really want to take their kids on. If our kids are a little bit older, we probably would, just for the history, and they seem to be somewhat interested in it.
Yeah, and you would qualify, the family, anybody listening would make sure that they were the right fit for this. And there wouldn't be that many people with kids in early September because they need to be in school.
Exactly.
School had just gone back, basically. So.
Exactly. But for our group of friends, the way we travel, for the price point, it meets our needs. We're not total foodies, but the specialty restaurants were outstanding food. So having 3 or 4 nights of really good food, and then the other nights the food was like I said, half and half. There was a noodle restaurant which was actually awesome that was included in your package too. You didn't have to pay extra for that. So they had all different kinds of like ramen noodles, and if you like that type of food, Japanese like pot or Chinese pot stickers and whatnot, gyoza. That was a really good restaurant as well. It was very popular. There was a lot of Chinese passengers on board, so that was a really popular restaurant. Yeah, we will definitely go back on Norwegian again. I'm really curious to go on Royal just to compare the two. In my mind, I'm not sure if there's too much of a difference, but maybe there is. But it definitely, for the price point and for being able to see what we got to see, I thought it was well worth what we paid for it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was following your pictures when you posted on social media, and it looked like you guys were having a great time.
Yeah, it was amazing. Definitely one of those places I'd love to go back to at some point. Just not sure how or when. Anyway, so that's just some thoughts on our sailing with Norwegian and some maybe differences. If anybody has any questions out there, feel free to reach out to Christy and I about either Disney or for myself with Norwegian. And Christy, you've been on Carnival, Royal,
Celebrity.
So and Disney. So if anybody has any questions out there, feel free to reach out to us, because we'll definitely give you our opinions on what we think about some of the different experiences that we've had. So, and you can do that on either Facebook at the DCL Podcast, or right now I'm on Twitter at the DCL Podcast. And Christy, where can they reach you again?
On Facebook at Pack Your Pixie Dust, and on Twitter at Pack Your Pixie Dust. The YR is what is in the handle, but I just did a search recently. You could find me both ways. And then I'm also on Instagram, the same.
Perfect.
And I was just going to say that we do want you to reach out to us and ask your questions that you have for any cruise-related topic or travel-related that we can come up with an answer for you. We'd like to do a question and answer show at some point, so we need some questions. Knowing that you don't want to ask a question for some time that you would need to know between now and Christmas, for example, because it does take us a little bit of time to get the shows uploaded. But if there's a question that relates to a cruise in the future, we'd be happy to answer that for you. And Steve doesn't really know this, but we are going to do an Ask the Pilot question and answer show. And I already have a couple of questions for Steve because Steve is a pilot and I want fun feedback and fun, just like he was excited about the captain of the ship going into stuff. I want the captain of my airplane giving me some feedback and information. So we are going to do a future Ask the Pilot show. So give us your questions that you have for the pilot, and as long as he's allowed to answer them, we will.
There's nothing that I can't answer, really. I don't know if there's anything all that interesting. It's just like, you press the button, it takes off. You press the button, it lands. There you go. And you're in Florida.
You just had like 3 days of testing or something to get recertified. So it is more involved than that. Don't downplay your job. And I think they have to teach you what happens in case the buttons don't work, right?
That is true. Every now and then you have to like click off the autopilot and turn it left or right and try and figure out where to land. So, but no, yeah, definitely throw out whatever questions you have about flying or the airlines in general. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up tonight. Anything else you can think of before we get out of here?
I am doing a contest on the Pack Your Pixie Dust Facebook page, which I'll have you share on the DCL podcast Facebook page. They have to comment on and I'll leave the contest up for a little bit after the show gets released. Comment on the post about how you first heard us. Where did you hear us? Did you hear us? We're on Stitcher now, iHeartRadio, iTunes. Where did you hear about us, and where do you listen to us? So, and then I'm going to do a little drawing, give away a prize.
Perfect. And you know what? I got a Disney Cruise Line lanyard I can send your way too. That you can throw that in that prize package. So that might be kind of a fun thing to have. You don't see those as much.
Excellent.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on again, Christy, and it was fun talking as always.
Yeah.
And look forward to Christy and I are gonna have a little meetup down in Walt Disney World in the third week, I guess, of November. But we'll be back before then and bring out some more entertainment for you between now and then. So thanks again for coming back and taking a listen. If you have the time to do it, it'd be awesome if you could leave us an iTunes review. That helps get the word out about the show. And as Christy said, we are now on iHeartRadio. So find us on iHeartRadio, Stitchers, and iTunes. And for all of us here at the DCL Podcast, thanks for listening. If you're heading out anytime soon on a vacation, we want to wish you safe travels and fair winds on your next adventure. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.